I broke the display screen on my camera, so I don't know if this is going to work very well or not, but that's the plywood and the boards I bought to build the cabinet on the right side of the van. I flipped up the hatch and removed those 2 bolts and that screw. I took that screw out because I'm going to need to bend that plastic down to get at the 2 lower mounting bolts. It uses a 15mm socket, and they were pretty tight. That's why I had to get my breaker bar out. That bolt right there on the right side seat, there's 2 of them. I took this plastic piece off so I could get access to those 2 bolts. I used an 11mm socket to take off those little black plastic nuts that go on those screws right there all the way across. The reason I'm taking out the right side rear seat is I'm going to use this footwell or basement or whatever you want to call it for my RV battery. I'm going to be able to easily fit a pair of Group 31 deep cycle batteries in this footwell. It's definitely tall enough and deep enough, and I actually got quite a bit of space up here yet. I don't know if I could put a water tank in that area, or I haven't really decided what I'm going to do with that yet. If I really wanted to, I could fit 3 of them in there, but I think I'm just going to run 2 and probably use that space towards the front for either a wastewater container or a freshwater container. There are little nuts all the way around this piece of trim that I took out so that I could get these front seats out. You want to be able to lift this trim up a little bit to be able to get the seat out of the footwell. It's held in place by these 3 studs into the chassis right here. You can see that's the 3 bolts that you have to take out, and once you take them out, you can lift the seat out of the well. These seats are quite a bit heavier than the one I pulled out of the back seat. I found it easiest to put them in the half up position and then finish loosening the nuts and pull it out that way. Next thing I'm going to do is remove that panel, because that is where I'm going to put my cupboard, I guess we'll call it, or bed slash kitchen. We'll get to that eventually. I'm going to start with removing the bolts that hold the seat belts down and see how far this thing has to come apart just to get rid of that panel only. I started by popping out that speaker grill because I knew it was removable, and you can see there are a bunch of screws that hold that main panel into place, and on this end there's more of the same type of clips that just pop into place. I'm going to take these screws out, and I think the whole panel will come out now. Alright, I got that panel off, and what we've got left there is the rear air conditioning. I did have to take the top seat belt mounts off. There were 3 screws on that back panel that I had to kind of try to pry that thing away and wedge my screwdriver in there to get those 3 screws off, and that was probably the most difficult part of it. But that plastic was pretty tough. I didn't crack it or anything. I gotta take this tunnel off of here right now from the rear air conditioning so that I can get the lower part of the seat belt off the rear, and I'm going to take the seat belt off the frame there. And I did get some nice mounting bolts for the cabinets. There's a stud down there on the wheel well, and there's a nice mounting tab right there that I can bolt my cabinet to with the seat belt mount. And then these 2 bolt holes from the seat will also be nice to bolt my cabinet down with, so it'll be nice and secure and not rattle. This bolt right here and this bolt right here hold the AC unit in, and I took those out to loosen that up so I could get access to this bolt down inside here. It's being kind of a stinker. I think it's a 21 millimeter. I don't have that wrench. I think I'm going to have to use a crescent wrench, or I'm going to try a 13/16. Well, I have the seat belts removed, front and rear, and I don't think I'm going to put that big old ductwork back in there. That brought the rear AC and kicked it out right by where that screwdriver is. I think on the rear AC I'm going to have that cabinet just have a vent in it that points at anybody that would be sitting in the back seat. That air conditioning only runs when the car is running, obviously, but if we're traveling back here and Bradley's sitting in this chair playing Nintendo, the rear AC might be nice. These vents that are in the ceiling, I was really hoping they would work on the rear AC, but there's a special switch on the front. If you turn the fan switch for the rear all the way to the left, that kicks these vents in on high, which that'll be nice for circulation, but it doesn't do anything out of the air conditioning. That's the air conditioning evaporator right there. So if I want to keep the rear air, I got to put a vent in that area right in the cabinet. So I'm just sitting back here looking at stuff and trying to figure out what my next move is. I've got a basic plan, but now I'm kind of finalizing it, I guess. Alright, that is the passenger side middle row stow and go seat. I took the low profile headrest out of it and put the original front passenger headrest in it. It fit right in there, and I'm going to be taking this seat off and using that seat because that one has two armrests and a hidden little cup holder on the side, and it has a bolt pattern that is close enough to allow me to use a Northern Tool seat swivel kit. I was watching Into the Mystery 13 on his van where he did the seat swivel kit, and that's kind of the same thing I'm doing. And I remember him saying something about the double armrests would be nice. So when I had that seat available to me, and it fit better than the original front seat because the bolt pattern is wrong on the seat. So I'm going to be installing that one in the front on a swivel. Well, I'm going in for the night. It's getting pretty dark and hard to see what I'm doing. I've got the original driver's seat all ripped apart because there are pressure sensors and things that are hooked up to it that I'm going to have to figure out how to keep that stuff enabled so that when I have that seat mounted in this position, my airbag will still work on that side.